people first company. We put our employees first. Anyone can say that. And you know what? It's so often, especially in young tech startup companies, the conversation turns into, well, we have beanbag chairs and we have snacks in the kitchen and we have beer on tap, and those things are not culture. They're perks, they're benefits, but at the end of the day, it's about, how are you in the moment? What are your actions doing to ensure that, your people are being taken care of?
Welcome to Growth Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Jeff Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
When you think about growing your company, do you think about the culture that you want to put in place? Are you very intentional about that? Well, everyone I know that's growing really fast, those leaders put emphasis on culture. They put so much care around what will it be like to work here? How do we create the right experience for our employees? And one of the big ideas behind that is team first or employee first. When you put your people first, they are more likely to take care of the clients. If you put your clients first, you're willing to shortchange a little bit of the care for the people so that you actually bring in revenue. It's kind of a short-term versus long-term thinking. Long-term, taking care of your people will provide the long-term growth of the company. Short-term, you can kind of figure out the magic there. Well, I wanted to find a company that really kind of could really demonstrate how this is done and show you how fast they could grow when they put people first. So I found the co-founder of Digital Hyve, Jeff Knauss. This guy, really amazing, young, really on fire. But one of the things that was really stood out to me in this conversation with him is the fourth hire in the company was a director of HR. And everyone said, you're crazy. Why would you do that? You don't have the kind of revenue for that kind of overhead. But he knew he wanted to grow fast. He knew he needed to hire a lot of people to be able to keep up with the demand that was going on. And so that fourth hire became a critical hire for him. And we talk about it inside the interview. We talk about the power of people first. We talk about how that drives growth of his company. By the way, number 52 on the 2018 Inc. list. They grew at over 5,000%. The revenue was over 5 million. And so lean into what Jeff has to say about how to grow fast. Thanks for tuning in here to Growth Think Tank. Really excited about sharing this with you. And before you run, I have done so many interviews in the last few weeks. I have such an exciting time to share with you that those interviews have been organized into the 12 core principles of fast growth companies. So all you have to do to get that is go to jeanhammett.com/worksheet. So you can get the 12 principles, and I've been able to go in there and find which episodes will align to each individual episode. When you subscribe to Growth Think Tank, you will find exactly what you need so that you can move forward. And many of them haven't been published yet, depending on when you're hearing this, but you can tune in to the date that means the most to you. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you here at the Growth Think Tank podcast. I've already let our audience know a little bit about you, but tell us about the business you have right now.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of Digital Hyve. We are a full-service digital marketing agency based in upstate New York. We've been growing real fast, Gene.
Well, you were on the Inc. list last year, over 5,000% growth in 3 years. Was that kind of the plan, or is this just kind of something that just happened because you guys are executing well?
I talk a lot about intentionality, and I will say that very much the growth has been part of our plan. Not just the growth, but Inc. Actually, I've been reading Inc. magazine since I was probably 22 years old. It's my favorite business publication. And, I always looked at the Inc. 5000. Even before I was an entrepreneur, I worked in corporate television for about 8 years prior to starting my business. And, I looked at that list every year, and I was like, wow. And I'd read the stories, and I just thought it was so fascinating how these businesses started with nothing. And then, they grew to this incredible, at this incredible rate. So when we first started our business, literally from year one, we talked about being on the Inc. 5000. And when it was just two guys in a 200 square foot office. So that was on our mind very, very early on. And we knew that if you get in the top 10%, the top 500, you get featured in the magazine. So our joke was always, we're shooting for $4.99. If we get $4.99, we'll be happy. And yeah, we landed on the list last year, which is awesome.
Well, you blew past that because you landed on 52. Is that right?
Yep, 52.
Impressive. A lot of the people that I've had on the show already are part of that crowd, and we're really trying to figure out, what are the key strategies that define or activate growth inside the companies. And I was talking to you before last week and setting up this kind of conversation. You really have a very strong feeling about putting people first in the organization. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so a few things. One, I think specifically is, I think the plague in most businesses today, and a lot of business owners specifically, is that most folks that I see in business are very short-sighted. They're thinking about the short term. So, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right? So their business isn't doing so well, so it's out of desperation. They're worried about, making today's dollar and tomorrow's dollar, and how am I gonna get one over on somebody else, right? And I think that a lot of that is driven from a corporate structure. Again, I worked in the corporate world for a number of years, and I understand, market share and trying to drive competitor, just trying to eke out that 1% that's going to make a huge difference. But I realized early on that, Digital Hyve was going to be a long-term play for us. And that, yes, were we, in the beginning, a stereotypical struggling startup. It was, again, just two guys. My wife was staying at home with our son. And so my income was the only income. And for a long time, there wasn't an income. So, was there that, we got to make this work? Absolutely. But at the same time, even from day one, I was just like, you know what, we're going to start this company on the right foot. So much, in fact, that our name, Digital Hyve, Hyve, is actually Finnish. My wife is from Finland, so I got some brownie points for that. Hyve is actually Hyve in Finnish, which means virtue. And we incorporated that in the business because we wanted to make sure that we were always virtuous. We were always thinking about our clients. We were always doing the right thing for our people, for our crew, for our clients. Doing the right thing was very important to us over the long run, because we knew, our hypothesis was that if we do the right thing long enough, it'll come back to us eventually, And so that's why we decided to make people first. That's why we made a conscious decision when we created our value sets. It's our crew, our clients, passion, integrity, and better every day. People, sequentially, our people come first. And the reason for that, and I tell clients that too, and some clients are like, really? And the reason for that is because I've seen so many businesses put their clients first. And what happens is they burn out their people. They say, no matter what, a client emails in the middle of the night, 4:00, you better be up, you better be on the phone, you better figure it out, email and whatever. And then what happens? The people aren't happy, you create a negative culture, and then ultimately clients don't get the best service. Whereas if you create a great culture and you put your people first, what happens? You take care of your people, they take care of your clients. So it may seem like a fluffy strategy, but at the end of the day, I think it's truly a win-win-win. Our business wins because our people are happy, the culture is strong, and then our people win because they're getting taken care of. They feel fulfilled with the job and the career that they're passionate about, and our clients win because they're getting taken care of by the absolute best. I'm so proud of our team, the absolute best people in the world, taking care of them, thinking about them first, because now all of a sudden it's not just a job to our crew. It's a passion, it's a career, it's something that they can really feel like, I want to help this company grow, Digital Hyve grow, and by doing that, I'm gonna make sure that our clients are happy. So I think it's just, I think changing that paradigm shift, thinking about how our people can come first, was one of the first things that we did, and honestly, one of the best things that we did and continue to do.
Let's pause here for a minute. Jeff just said, putting a lens of people first. When you have a conversation coming up with an employee and you have that intention to address that with the emotion and the tone that you're going to put them first, things are different. It's real easy to judge someone or to be angry or be frustrated with someone because there was a mistake or a failure. But when you put people first, you actually are able to slow down, take a breath, and actually come to that with the right emotion. And when you come to that conversation with the right emotion, you're going to have a much better chance to connect with that individual and to get them to see what needs to be shifted or changed or done differently. And you have that is a tool in your toolbox, if you will, if you really do take that pause. So I wanted to reinforce that for you today here. Now back to the interview with Jeff. Why do you think people resist that? Because it's common to put customers first.
Yeah. Again, I think it's really I think it's a short-sightedness. I think it's like, there's this urgency of, oh gosh, my client's upset, so I gotta drop everything and make sure. And there's a sense of urgency there that we carry, but that's what's instilled in our people, because they know that our clients need to be the most important things they're focused on, because we're taking care of the people. I think that when you aren't taking care of your people, they're worried. They're coming into a job, right? They have mortgages to pay. They have spouses to think about. They have kids to think about. They got a lot more than just whatever they're doing in the day-to-day. But if you can take care of them as people, as humans, and you can kind of knock off those worries for them, they can be wholly focused on their customers. But I think oftentimes businesses just think about like, well, no matter what, we got to grow. No matter what the cost, we got to grow. We got to retain our clients. We got to, no matter what. And it can't be a no matter what situation. It can't be, because at the end of the day, not all clients are a good fit for Digital Hyve, and we're not a good fit for every client. So we got to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with the best clients to ensure that our crew is content and we take care of everybody. Again, it's really about thinking about a win-win-win mentality. It's just what it has to be for future success. Sometimes, Gene, to answer your question in another way, when you start to put your clients first, what actually happens is you're being a detriment to your business long term, because you're sacrificing those core values of your business for those short-term wins. But ultimately, the long term gets really, really hurt. Your brand, your reputation, your culture, all those things that are really, really important start to go down the tubes, because you're worried about like, oh, well, we're just gonna do this, that, the other thing, because that's what the client needs in the moment, right?
I so agree with you. I mean, I've done so many, inside projects with clients that are growing really fast. And I noticed that this was something that was important to them. And so as a coach, I helped them actually make that come alive. But then you talk about it in my public speeches and whatnot. And I mention this, and people are like floored, because they either believe it's customer first, or they actually believe it's this chicken and egg thing. Like it takes both. And my argument behind that, Jeff, is yes, it does take both, but if you don't put people first, they'll never put your clients first.
Totally. 100%, Gene.
I want to dive into the strategies behind this, because it's cool. You showed me that you have these things on the wall, and a lot of companies have their values on the wall. But what do you do to really reinforce that or operationalize the values of crew first?
Yeah, so I think, it's really easy to say all these things, and it sounds nice, doesn't it? To say, well, we're a people first company, we put our employees first. Anyone can say that. And you know what? It's so often, especially in young tech startup companies, the conversation turns into, well, we have beanbag chairs, and we have snacks in the kitchen, and we have beer on tap, and those things are not culture. They're perks, they're benefits. But at the end of the day, it's about, how are you in the moment? What are your actions doing to ensure that, your people are being taken care of? Because, I mentioned like, clients upset at 11 o'clock at night. Here's a good example. Last night, literally, I work all hours of the night because I get to, it's my business, and and it's fun for me. Business is my hobby. I also have, I sleep about 3 hours a night just because I've done that since I was a kid. So I don't really need much sleep. So I do a lot of my thinking and my strategic work, getting back to emails and things like that at night. And about midnight, I was thinking about some stuff. I wrote some strategy out for a client of ours, and I copied a bunch of our team members into it. And everybody knows you don't get back to me until the next day. This is just me working on my time, right? And then this person, one of our employees, was just emailing me, like responding in the moment. And I'm like, I had to tell her, shut the computer down and go to sleep. Just go away, or go watch TV, whatever you want to do, but don't work anymore. And I think that's the result of us putting people first, because they are invested. They want to be doing this, right? And so ultimately, to your point, like, it does have to be both. I'm not saying that clients aren't mega important. Obviously, we wouldn't be a business without clients, right? But I think of it less about like the importance level. It's not like clients are more important than our people, or people are more important. I think it's about it sequentially. So our crew comes before our clients. There's the same importance, but if you put our crew before the client, then what happens is then our crew can naturally take care of the client at the same importance level. So I think it's more about sequential than weight. But operationally, what a lot of times what we'll do is so one just, example of that is we've adopted work from home days and mental health days, because we understand, I always try to tell people, being the 52nd fastest growing company in the country, if everyone could do that, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it, right? They'd be growing super fast, because a lot of businesses, what a lot of businesses want. And so it's not going to be easy. To be here, you have to be an A player. You have to want to be part of a championship team. You get all the benefits from being on the championship team. You get all the, the bragging rights of being 52 and all the fun perks and benefits and all that kind of stuff that I talked about. At the same time, we're grinding, man. You got to be at the top of your game, because we're not going to stay. It's almost easy, looking retrospectively, it's almost easy to get here, but to maintain this gene, to maintain being this fast growing, this fast paced, this agile, this good at what we do, you got to keep working, man. And so I think that giving people understanding that it's not easy, and in order to be part of this crew, you're going to be grinding, but in exchange for that, right? Because I think that organizations need to think about the fair exchange between employer and employee, giving back that value of we recognize that there's a lot going on, and we're going to give you mental health days. So if you need to take a break, you got that. You go home, you unplug, and you just get your mind space in the right spot. Because if your mind space isn't in the right spot, then that's going to translate into our clients. It's going to translate into your customer service. It's going to translate into executing campaigns and not being able to optimize the right way. So that's just an example of ways that we try to operationally build into our business opportunities for our employees to take advantage of, so that they know that we got their back, right?
When you think about, defining the workplace and what you're doing, is there anything that you do that you feel is uncommon across the, crew first?
I think it's, I don't know that we have this big sweeping, as I mentioned, there's work from home. We try to incorporate the mental health days. We also incorporate things like paid volunteer hours. So if you want to get behind a cause and go out and volunteer, we're going to support you, because we're big believers in the community. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. But I know a lot of other companies do that. I think the reason we've been successful at it, to be very honest, is because our leadership team is on the same page. So we don't have rogue leaders that don't believe in this philosophy. There's not the person that's cracking because all day long, I can say all these nice philosophies. I can say all these great things about how putting people first is important, all that stuff. But if our line level managers, our directors, our VPs aren't actually putting into place on a day-to-day basis these principles and treating people with respect and not bringing them into a room and screaming when there's a mistake, but supporting them and giving them tools to ensure that they can do a good job, and then getting out of their way because we hired them because they're talented people. If we're not implementing those different things on the day-to-day, all of this stuff falls flat. None of it actually, it's all just nice things to say out loud and never gets implemented, never gets executed on. And so I give a lot of credit. I give all the credit to our leadership team of being really thoughtful about, putting everything almost through a lens, of saying, I'm going to make this decision about how I'm going to approach an employee or a situation or a critical error. I'm going to put this through a lens and say, all right, if we're putting our people first, how should I approach this situation? Rather than how I might naturally react. I might react with anger. I might react with frustration. I might react this way. If I put this lens of saying all right, I really want my people to grow. I want my people to be, fulfilled in their career. How can I approach this situation differently looking through that lens? And that's how I think we've made a real impact and been able to actually execute on that promise.
Well, that's a credit to you, understanding the values and bringing in a leadership team that is aligned with those values. That's easy to say, and everyone thinks, oh, that's what we're all trying to do. Is there anything that you did in the hiring process of that leadership team that you could share with us that you feel like really has made a difference?
Yeah. So I'll tell you one of the easier anecdotes to tell you is that our fourth hire was a director of HR. Now, when you talk about, did you plan on growing the business to this level? that intentionality that I was talking about, that's evidence of that, right? Because when we were only 3 people, it was kind of hard to justify the quote unquote overhead of an HR person, right? But the way that we were able to do that was to say, look at like Jake and I, my co-founder, Jake is the technical co-founder. I'm much more of the face of the company, CEO, co-founder. And but what we did not have was experience in building a culture. We did not have an experience in HR regulations and rules and laws, and we did not have best hiring practices under our belts. I had been a manager in the corporate world, but we're both first-time entrepreneurs. So we found somebody. Her name's Sarah Mastrangelo. We found Sarah. She had been at a chocolate company in Boston. She was leaving that company to come back to upstate New York to be with her family and things like that. And it's perfect timing. She had been through the scaling process. She was like the 4th employee at this company. And within a few years, they were scaled up to, I think, like 150, 200 people. So we said, see, you've been through it. You can help us in this war that we're trying to wage. And so was it a tough thing to swallow on the front end? Sure. But I think that she really helped us define, we kind of set the vision of saying, this is what we want in our employees. This is where we want to go culturally. This is where we want to go as a business. But she helped us lay in the foundation of best hiring practices and recruitment skills to be able to find those people and to hire those people.
Many visionary leaders are labeled crazy. I'll put it in air quotes. Steve Jobs comes to mind because of the way he saw the evolution of computers. And frankly, most accounts say that he wasn't that good of a leader. Yeah. But when you told others that your 4th hire was a director of HR, how many times did people say that was crazy, they didn't understand it, or something along those lines?
Every time. Every time. All of my kind of circle that I surrounded myself, other entrepreneurs, business folks, certainly my corporate friends from my my previous career, they definitely questioned the rationale behind, right now, we're growing fast. You need account managers, you need digital marketing producers, you need this, you need that. And I was like, we do need that, which is all the more reason we need a director of HR so that we can figure out how to hire those people. And not only hire those people, how do we keep those people? How do we set in a base culture and create a foundation for that culture that's going to support these folks moving forward in their careers? How do we create a company that's fulfilling their most basic needs of wanting to grow their personal selves? Like, I didn't have the answer to that, and I felt that it was really important that we figure out that answer, and I couldn't do it on my own. So I'm a big believer in in finding people with incredible talents, growing. One of my favorite quotes is from David Ogilvy. He said, in effect, that if you hire people that are smaller than you, you end up as a company of small people, little people. If you hire people that are bigger than you, you end up as a company of giants. And I so subscribe to that mentality of, I just want people that can come in and just own it. I don't want to be involved with HR. It's not my thing. I don't know how to do it. I want somebody that's incredibly smart that can run with it. I'll tell them the vision. I'll set the path. You go and execute, man. And we've found incredible success with doing that. But it takes a lot of patience. Rushing a hiring decision is like the last thing you want to do, because at the end of the day, each one of those people are going to contribute to that culture, and you got to make sure to maintain it as you continue to scale.
Now, that was a really big statement there. You've got to grow yourself. You got to grow your employees. When you grow the people inside the organization, I'm not talking about growing their midsection by throwing out free food and free snacks and free sodas. I'm talking about growing them from a mindset and growing them from a heart set, like the things that really drive their passion forward. And if you're able to grow their confidence and courage as a leader, you will have a loyal employee base that really does want to do great work. They want to innovate, be creative, but they're not going to do that if you're not growing them as a person. As a leader, you must see the connection as growing yourself as growing the company, but also growing the people is growing the company. That is really important. It's one of the key things I work on with my leadership and leadership teams. If you have any questions about that, make sure you reach out to me. I'd love to help you and see what's going on inside your organization. Now back to I'm smiling here because as a speaker, I started doing this research a couple of years ago because I had multiple clients that made the Inc. 5000 list. And I was kind of curious what other companies had in common, the core principles of growth.
Sure.
And I was looking at sales and marketing. And I know you're in the marketing background, but there was nothing that I could really latch on there. But this concept of team first was huge. The concept of giving people a chance to own it and to grow at a personal level were the common themes that took companies to this higher level, and other companies were ignoring those. And so I really appreciate you sharing that with us today. If our audience wanted to get in touch with you, see what you're up to, Jeff, where would you point them to?
Yeah, email is jeff@digitalhyve.com. Hyve is spelled with a Y, so digitalhyve.com. Feel free to reach out to me by email, LinkedIn, easiest way to find me, or go to our website, digitalhyve.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks for sharing this. Really happy for your success and happy for you to be the kind of leader that really inspires us to be modern leaders. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gene. Lots of fun.
Wow. Really love everything about that because it really reinforces everything I've done in the last few years working with fast growth companies. One of the things that Jeff said right there at the end was he talked about the power of getting the people to own it. When you get an ownership culture, people are willing to see the work that needs to be done and not just do it out of responsibility. They do it because they want to. They have that sense of ownership. They feel a sense of ownership of that work and taking care of it. They own the results. They own the process. As the core of the speeches I give, as the core of the work I do as a coach and as a consultant working with clients that want to grow really fast. So I wanted to reinforce that for you today. Thank you for joining us here at Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.